We did all of our position previews except utility bats. Let's talk about them next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Friday, March 4th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And let's start all the way up top. Shohei Ohtani. He's got an ADP of 18.6 on Fantasy Pros. More likely a first-round pick in those category roto-type leagues. Fantastic season last year, Scotty. 257, 46 homers, 103 runs, 100 RBI, 26 steals. The only downside to Ohtani is that he's utility only.
Well, yeah, I want to say that's the only downside, but obviously that's a big part of it. It really limits your flexibility later in drafts, which can become an issue depending on how your build is going. You know, you don't want to make it so you can't draft a player at a position just because you're all clogged up there. And so it's nice to keep that utility spot open just because, you know, obviously it can fit anyone in it. So that is an issue with Ohtani, but there's also the issue of there's a couple other issues here. One is batting average, struck out about 30% of the time last year, hit around I think it was like 256 he hit, and got worse in the second half. And so you wonder how much of a liability he's going to be in that category that I think is the most important to meet in the early rounds. By the way, I would say even more so than stolen bases. You want a nice batting average base in the first round. Other than Jose Ramirez, Ohtani's the only one who's not going to be a big boost in batting average. In fact, he may be a big negative. And so you're just kind of catching up in that category. The other issue with Ohtani is just he has to, can he take on that kind of workload again for a second straight year, basically never sitting and splitting his time as a hitter and a pitcher? That's a big ask year after year. He managed to make it work last year, but could playing time become an issue? It could. So I tend to prefer, I'm starting to get to the point where even in those category leagues, I prefer like Bryce Harper, Bo Bichette over him, but it's a close call.
All right, let's move on to the next utility-only bat. That is Franmil Reyes. He's got an ADP of 115, and this is a massive human being that destroys baseballs. He hit 30 home runs last year, 85 RBI in just 115 games. Scott, I pretty much trust it. I know he hits too many ground balls, but at this point, if he stays healthy, 250 plus, 30 to 35 home runs, lock it in, Franmil Reyes.
Yeah, it seems really projectable at this point. He's done it basically 3 years in a row. The 2020 season, the power production was a little down, but it was a small sample, and so you don't want to dig too deep into that. But yeah, the 37 homer season in 2019, 30 homers last year, even with a significant chunk lost due to injury. I wish he walked more. I wish he didn't put it on the ground so much, but you can't complain too much about a guy giving you 35 homers, especially as late as you can get him. I guess the only downside there is that, if you took Ohtani in the first round, you're obviously not going to be able to take Franmil Reyes, and you're not going to be able to take Nelson Cruz either.
Well, let's talk about Nelson Cruz. He's got an ADP of 152.2. He's going nearly 40 picks later than Franmil Reyes. Now 41 years old is Nelson Cruz. He hit 265 with 32 homers and 85 RBI last season. Did struggle in his time in Tampa Bay. He played 55 games there, just a 726 OPS, but he really struggled in Tropicana Field. And we've heard other hitters come out and say how they've struggled to see the ball in the Trop. So, Scott, I kind of wonder if that contributed to the lower numbers for Nelson Cruz last season.
It certainly appears so when you look at his home away just with his time with the Rays. Now, the batting average wasn't great in either spot, but the power production was way up on the road, and the strikeout rate was down on the road. And when you're talking about splitting up already a partial season, it's such a small sample that I don't know that I'd stress about the batting average on the road anyway. The exit velocities were where they normally are. I just think Tropicana Field, dimly lit, got that white roof, and not a great batter's eye either. Just some hitters have a lot of trouble with it. So, obviously at 41, the drop-off could come any time for Nelson Cruz. He could just suddenly lose it. But I don't think that's what happened with the Rays last year. I think the more concerning elements for him are that, yes, he's utility only and sure to stay utility only all season long. I'm also a little worried that he hasn't signed yet. I don't think when the lockout is lifted, everybody just signs the next day or anything like that. It'll be a quick ramp up to the season. And how long will it take Cruz to find a team? Will he be able to get enough at bats to be ready to go at the start? I think those are fair concerns at this point.
All right. Also want to give an honorable mention to Gavin Sheets as our fourth util only bat here. Was really strong down the stretch for the Chicago White Sox. He's got a lot of pop, but more so a name to pay attention to in deeper leagues, AL only for now, and maybe
for
even
now.
Yeah.
I could see him getting more at-bats than Andrew Vaughn, though. So, yeah, definitely remember the name Gavin Sheets.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again on Saturday morning. Bye-bye.